Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Pastor Bruce. This is amvoice.net. It is March 3rd, 2018. And today I want to talk a little bit more about the shooting in the schools. Okay. Now, I was talking to a psychologist years ago, and what they were telling me is that in modern psychology today, we are not paying attention to cause and effect. What we're doing is saying an individual is responsible for their actions at the time. And that is true. I'm not going to argue with that. People are responsible for the actions at their time. But what caused them to do that? What was the cause that finally put them in the position that they committed the act? What caused this kid to go in and kill 17 other kids? You have to find that out. If you don't find that out, you'll never resolve the cause. Now, Tucker Carlson on Fox News sat there and said that one of the things is that most of these kids come from fatherless homes. You see, that's the National Organization of Women going out there telling women you don't need a man in your household to raise a child. And really, you don't. But if you want a good child, because most women today, young women that are getting pregnant, don't have an education, are not smart enough to know what to do. And I apologize if I offend you. But they don't. A lot of dropouts. A lot are sitting there getting a dumbed down education. So they're really not smart enough to know what it's all about. And when you have kids having kids who don't have the responsibility of adults to know how to take care of children, stuff like this happens. And the National Organization of Women saying, well, you don't need a man in your life, creates problems like this. The dumbing down of our society does this. Our modern television with the violence and murder rate. I mean, I look at some things and I say, oh, gee, the plane went down. But does anybody talk about the 250 lives that died on that plane? Well, of course not. They don't care about that. They just care about the violence, showing the violence. Look at shows, people. Pay attention to what you're watching. I'm watching Supernatural again. I've watched a couple of shows over the course of years that were in the 90s, early 2000s. And a lot of them, I mean, like Charmed. You know, they talk about not exposing the nipple today. But if you watch Charmed, they're all running around braless and their nipples are exposed. So they created the problem. Now they're sitting there saying, oh, we can't have this. And in Supernatural, every time they turn around, they're drinking beer or alcohol. And they're getting in cars and they're driving. Well, gee, that seems to be all right. And drugs are now becoming prominent. Lesbianism and homosexuality are becoming prominent, saying, look, it's okay, it's okay. That's what the media is telling us, that everything that these people are doing, subliminal suggestion is telling us that what they're doing is okay, and we can do it too. And it creates problems. The National Organization of Women creates problems. The Democratic Party that wants to separate this nation so they can have power creates problems. But we have to look at cause and effect. Now, one thing I just got on Facebook that I was going through says students across America are walking out of school in protest of gun violence. Why? Okay. Maybe if they didn't bully their peers to the point of a mental breakdown in the first place, this wouldn't be an issue. According to the CDC, 4,400 children commit suicide each year because of bullying. Some decide to go and kill. Is bullying part of the problem? Bullying's been around for years. Everybody gets bullied. If you learn to either put up with it and ignore it or defend yourself. Okay? We live in this passive society where everything hurts your feelings. And if it hurts your feelings, then it shouldn't be allowed. Bullying is one. It hurts people's feelings. Get over it. Now that's face to face. You can't stop that. You got to learn to live with it. But online bullying, threatening people, I mean, it's just sad, people. It really is. The teenagers. And these teenagers are kids that they're saying, oh, well, they're adults. I mean, here's the other conflict. A 14-year-old kid who's maybe 6 foot tall would get charged with a felony and be tried as an adult. But then in some courts, you got a 17-year-old who's going to be tried as a child. See the difference? We're setting a bad standard in our criminal system. We have to know why things happen, cause and effect. What causes any kid to walk into a school and shoot up that school? We have to know. Cause and effect. Modern psychology says you're responsible for your actions. I'm not saying that this kid is not responsible for his actions. He is responsible. But what caused him to act that way? Let's get down to the basics. Was it because he was from a fatherless home? Was it because his mother was a prostitute and the Johns that came into her house bullied him and picked on him? Maybe even abused him? Was it because the kids mocked him and teased him? He's never in the military. How did he get these guns? And let's talk about that. These kids are walking out of school protesting gun violence. They're hollering out there, guns kill people, guns kill people. No, they don't. And you know how I know this? Because 4 police officers sat outside that school with guns, and those guns did not kill anybody. It's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. Now, one of the things I agree with the president, and that is when you get 23 calls about an individual that's acting crazy or psycho or whatever, is talking about shooting up schools or anything like that, when you get 2 or 3 calls to the FBI, you need to go into that guy's house and say, listen, for your safety and the safety of others, we're confiscating your guns. Here's your receipt. And when you can prove that you are mentally competent and capable of keeping these guns, we'll give them back to you. That means you need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health person, and they need to evaluate you to make the determination. And if a professional says, well, he's competent and capable, fine. Give him back his guns. Well, you're saying, oh, that's against his civil rights. Do you know if a person's acting crazy out in the street, they can be arrested and held for 72 hours to determine if they're a threat to themselves or others? Isn't that a violation of their civil rights? Of course it is. But when it comes to the safety of the people, throw that out the window. Their civil rights don't mean anything. Now, if this kid would have had his guns taken away from him, he would have gone to counseling, and a counselor sat there and said that he was mentally competent and he was non-violent towards anybody, then give him back his guns. And then if he goes to shoot up everything, then you need to go to that counselor and say, you're under arrest because you're incompetent in your job and you caused the death of these people. You see, the psychologists and doctors, they don't want to take that risk or that chance. They don't want to lose their license. They don't want to lose how much money they're making. That's all it comes down to. They don't care about the people. They just care about how much they make. And I agree with this posting. Tracy Kaufman put it online. The newly pressed post. Students across America are walking out of school to protest gun violence. As Tucker Carlson told us in one news broadcast, there are less guns out there today than there were 50 years ago. And yet there's more violence out there today. Why? If there are less guns, why is there more violence? Maybe if they didn't bully their peers to the point of mental some people that are just crazy. I go back to the Christian side of the house here because I am a pastor after all. And one of the things in the Bible, it tells us that not all people will find Jesus. Not all people will believe in God. That's fine. We're not forcing anybody to do that. Which means there are going to be some people that are out there that don't believe like you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if those people are liberal socialists that believe that the only way to create an issue or to resolve an issue is through violence, they need to be stopped. Really. Liberals are a threat to this country. And for all you military people who listen to me, remember what you said when you took your oath: to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from foreign and domestic enemies. See, it's vitally important to keep that in mind, that domestic enemy, because there are social democrats, there are communists, there are fascists, there are totalitarianists that are out there that want to destroy America from within. And they're doing it because you're failing to stand up and protect who you are and who this country is and what this country is all about. We are a nation of mixed people. We are a nation of mixed religions. And because of that, we have different ideas and different policies, but that's where the federal government comes in and says all people will live like this. Individual states can break it down saying, okay, fine. Now, what is it? Merkel just came out, the chancellor of Germany, just came out and is concerned about the no-go zones that are in Germany that the Muslims set up and the violence that are occurring in those no-go zones, and they can't go in and do anything about it. It's under Shiite law. It happened in Paris, and now it's happening in Germany. See, they're spreading out. The Muslims are spreading out. They're creating their own safe zones, and they're prosecuting their own people and hurting their own people within their zones. And there's nothing. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not part of what going into a country is all about. They're sitting there saying, we don't acknowledge your laws. We're going to acknowledge our laws, and you stay away from us. And so therefore, violence is occurring constantly. And when they get out there and they watch the movies and the television, and they see the violence on the movies and the television, I mean, it's just absolutely pathetic on how we're destroying our own society, and we're destroying it from within. And the Democrats, the school system, the National Organization of Women, the American Atheist Organization could care less. And because they could care less, what's happening? We're failing as a society. We were a great experiment, and that experiment worked. We're the most powerful nation in the world, and we're only 249 years old. You can't get any better than that. And because we're the number one, everybody wants to tear us down. Everybody hates us. Because we're not capable of doing it themselves. Germany, France, Germany tried World War I and II, failed. France never tried to become the leaders of the world. The Russians, under communism, tried to become the leaders of the world. It failed. England was a leader of the world, and they were more spread out than any other nation. But eventually it failed. Because of that, we decided we're not going to go along the same lines as England did. We're not out there colonizing. We're out there giving people freedom. Freedom to be their own. And look what's happening to the world. Maybe we should colonize. Maybe we should come under a one world government. If we do, it should be under the UN. So what do? How do we stop the violence in the schools? First and foremost, the police departments, especially this one, and the FBI need to get off their lazy butts and do their job. If there's a complaint, file a complaint. It's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. If a person is deemed to be violent in what they say, what they communicate with others, in the pictures that they post, then they need to go in and take a look and see if they have guns. And if they have guns, those guns need to be taken away. And they need to be evaluated. Nothing wrong with that. You want to carry a gun, you better be smart enough to know how to carry a gun. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are thousands upon thousands of American young men and women in this country that are carrying guns every day of the week. And these guns are loaded with 9mm ball ammo, with M16 rifles are loaded with their ammo. And every day they go out there to enforce the rules and regulations on military bases. They're armed, they're dangerous, and yet those guns never kill anybody. They have automatic weapons and they don't kill anybody. So it's not guns that kill people, it's the people who kill people. And we have to find out why people kill people. Cause and effect. Are they responsible? Yes, they are. But why? Were they bullied? Did they grow up without a father? Were they abused by their mother? Were they sexually abused by men in their life? You got to ask the questions. You have to ask the questions. And you've got to get the answers. And you've got to make changes. Not to gun laws, because guns don't kill. You got to make changes to society to stop these people from doing what they're doing. And the only way to do that is to find out why they did it. They did it because it comes from a fatherless home and he didn't know any other lifestyle. Okay, fine. They did it because he was sexually abused by the Johns that his mother brought into the house. All right, now we have a problem to deal with. Cause and effect. What was the cause? Let's find the cause. We have to go back to Freudian thinking. Modern psychology doesn't acknowledge Freudian thinking, but we have to go back to it. Find out what happened when they were younger to create the problem that they have today. You care about your citizens? The liberals don't. Liberals could care less. Look what happens. The liberals out there in California have all the money. So what happens when they get busted for drunk driving, or they get busted for drugs, or they get busted for domestic violence? They bring in lawyers, they pay them thousands upon thousands of dollars, and everything goes away. Does it resolve the issue? No, it doesn't. It only creates more issues. And those violent people, those sexually orientated people that are out there in Hollywood creating the problems, are out there putting it on television, putting it in the movies, telling you subliminally that you can do this too. And you can't. You really can't do what you see on television. You can't drink and drive, you get busted. And you don't have thousands of dollars to pay for a lawyer, so you're going to get stuck being persecuted. And they call it injustice, because why should a rich man get off and not a poor man? Because the rich man's got the money, and most of those rich men that get off are Democrats. And who I forget what his name is that plays Iron Man. How many times was he busted with drugs? How many times was he busted for violation of his probation? How many times did he get in trouble and his lawyers kept getting him out and he never had to go to jail for any length of time? How many times? And then he comes out and makes millions upon millions of dollars doing the Iron Man series. What does that say to the rest of the nation? Hey, we can get away with it. If he can, we can too. But when you get busted for drugs, when you get busted for parole violations, you don't have a $10,000, $15,000 lawyer sitting there going, don't worry, I'll get you out of it. You have someone else coming up saying, well, you violated probation, you're going to jail, there's nothing we can do. Well, you got caught with cocaine in your pocket, you're going to jail, there's nothing we can do. Hopefully we'll get the sentence lessened. So there's an injustice here, and the injustice has nothing to do with color, it has to do with money. It has to do with judges sitting there saying, just because this guy has high-priced lawyers, we're not going to persecute him like we persecute the common man. And those are the liberals that are getting away with it. And yet you want to follow the liberal cause. You want to believe that everybody has the freedoms. They don't. Even if we go into a socialistic society, we don't have the freedoms that you think you're going to get because you don't have the money to take care of it. And if you don't have the money, you're screwed. And we've seen it on both black and whites. Sports people who were prosecuted for rape, for domestic violence, singers for domestic violence. I mean, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, it matters the violation of the law. But those who have money, well, again, it doesn't matter the color of skin, it matters if you have the money to send the lawyers in to make it all go away. The common man does not have that kind of money. And lawyers, they don't care about you. All they care about is those rich clients that can make them rich. And that's it. That's our society today. Raising violent kids without respect for life, without respect for women, or for each other. Violence is not the answer, never was. And if you believe the stories that the Russians promoted some of these protest marches and violence that occurred in it, I believe it's the Democrats as well. They worked with the Russians to do this, to create anger and hatred in our country to the point where people like the Las Vegas shooter got his guns together, went up into a hotel room, and started killing people. Cause and effect. What caused it? And do you think the FBI will waste their time learning that? Listen, the FBI didn't respond to this kid's problems when they were called and told about it. The FBI turned the other cheek when rich politicians broke the law. So do you really care about the FBI and what they think? And think about this. Hillary Clinton lied. Some of the other people in the investigation lied. Are they in jail? No, but you lie to the FBI, you're going to jail. Double standard, people. It's the rich. And it's not the one percenters out there on Wall Street that are making money to keep businesses alive and keep jobs afloat. The rich, the one percenters, are the government leaders. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer. That are out there not doing their job, but being an obstructionist party to destroy this country. Because they are whining crybabies who lost. And now we're coming up to the midterm elections, and they're going to start putting a lot of things onto the Republicans that they did. Keep this in mind. The Democrats did not vote for the tax breaks. They created the horrible healthcare system with Obamacare. I mean, it's sad how much people are paying for that. And they sat there and said, well, if you're not going to have health care, we're going to penalize you and make you pay a fine. That's not a part of a democratic republic. It's not part of your freedom. You don't have to have insurance if you don't want it. But I tell you what, if you get sick and go into the hospital and run up $30, $40, $50,000 worth of bills, you better learn to pay for it or send you off to jail. They used to have debtors' prisons. You owe, so we're going to make sure that you pay that bill off. Well, it may not be necessary today, but it's really important to understand how the liberals and the Democrats have created such a problem in this country. And they worked with the Russians. You want to talk Russian collusion? It's the Democrats, people. It's not the Republicans. And it all goes back to why did this kid shoot up 17 kids? That's right. What created the anger and the hatred in this boy so bad that he would do something like this? And I talked. Was it the government? News? Television? Movies? Different organizations spouting out hate for men? For Christians? We don't know. But we need to find out the cause and effect and treat the cause so that the effect doesn't happen again. Listen, this is Pastor Bruce. It's one man's voice. AM voice is American voice. That's what it means. I speak for those Americans who have a voice but don't say anything. These are the questions that they ask. These are the things they want to know about. AM voice is about America becoming great again, about unifying with one another, not under the Democratic flag, but under the flag of the United States of America, under our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom to carry guns, our freedom that we don't have people persecuting us. That's what it's all about, people. And for you millennials, you need to open your eyes and understand the truth. You're being brainwashed. You're being manipulated into believing that socialism is a better way of life than a democratic republic. And you're turning your back on what made this country great. If you don't know what socialism is all about, study the stories of California. Study the stories of Venezuela. That's socialism, people. California was the most beautiful state. Now it is the worst state in our nation. It has an unprecedented homeless rate. It has people defecating and urinating in the street, throwing their needles in the street. They're out there panhandling for money. They're creating an unsafe environment. And what's the government doing? Here's a socialist government, liberal socialist government. They're filling their pockets, living life on the large, eating nice steaks and drinking champagne and wine, while the main people in that state suffer. That's what socialism is all about. We don't want it here in America. And until you millennials wake up and understand the truth, Democrats that control the state of California, it's Democrats that are creating the problems that are out there. So understand that. If you still want to follow the Democrats, good luck to you. Again, this is Pastor Bruce. Thank you for listening to amvoice.net. I wish you a great day.